Joining us right now on CBSN Boston to share in this excitement is Worcester Polytechnic Institute President Laurie Leshin. Thanks so much for being with us. You are a former NASA executive. You worked on the Mars Curiosity rover. How excited are you to see the landing and these first pictures coming from Mars?
I'd say I'm over Mars. I'm over the moon. I'm thrilled. I'm so excited, and so much kudos to the team for making this amazing thing happen in the midst of a global pandemic, which is such a challenging time to have to be launching a rover to Mars and then landing it on Mars, and they did it.
Incredible. Now, from your experience having worked on Curiosity, so this launched in July, as we know, 300 million miles, the 7 minutes of terror, and we're looking at some of the pictures of the first images that we're seeing of this landscape. Tell us, you know firsthand how much work goes into a mission like this. There must be people at Mission Control in tears seeing these images.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things I like to talk about is, people think science is all about sort of the passionless pursuit of facts, but it's just not true. It's the passionate pursuit of new knowledge. And these are folks that have given up nights and weekends and worked their tails off for years, up to a decade, on this one mission just to get to that moment yesterday. So a lot of emotion comes out. Yeah. Absolutely. And so well deserved. And we think of these rovers as almost like our children. It's like our baby was just born on Mars. So you get that whole sort of family connection as well.
It's true. I think NASA's been so clever with the Twitter feed from the rover. It's almost as if it's talking to you and you can follow along, which is so clever to get children engaged in it and people excited about this work. When you look at the landscape as you see it in that first image and then that rock next to the wheel, what are you excited to see happen next?
So thrilling. I'm a geologist by background, and so I love the rocks. I'm looking at them closely and trying to see what they look like. Very interesting, lots of holes in them. That could mean they might be volcanic rocks. It could be certain kinds of sediments. And again, we're really looking for sediments, things laid down in the lake when the lake was there inside Jezero Crater. And so I can't wait until they can get the instruments going on some of these rocks right next to the lander. It's going to be thrilling to see what they're made of.
And do I have this correct, that what we're looking at and this lake bed is older than anything on Earth?
It's older than almost everything, almost every rock at the surface of the Earth. It's probably about 3.5 billion years old, which is very, very old. There are a few rocks on Earth older than that, but Earth, because of plate tectonics, which you all remember learning about in school, the Earth is very good at covering its tracks on the surface of the planet. It's renewing its surface kind of all the time. Whereas Mars has on average, much older surface than the Earth. And so it's really interesting because that time on Earth is a really interesting time when life was emerging on our planet, but we have almost no record of it. But on Mars, that record is there. And that's what we really went to Mars to explore, is that ancient history.
Incredible. So how is this mission different from the one you worked on?
So there's a lot of things that are the same. I think Perseverance in many ways is like the daughter of Curiosity. She's even got some of Curiosity's spare parts that we use to build her. But some of the scientific instruments, the sensors on board, are different. Looking, for example, directly for the spectroscopic signatures of organic materials, those things that living things are made of. We're going to be sensing those directly. And then to me, the biggest difference is the ability to core into rocks and keep those cores built, take those chalk-sized samples and store them for a later mission to come and pick up and bring back to our labs here on Earth, where we will be eagerly waiting to analyze them in even more detail than any rover ever could.
Wow, isn't that incredible to think of those rocks making their way back here to Earth? And as a geologist, too, in layman's terms, what are you looking for first that could support life? I know there's this MIT experiment on board, MOXIE, which is about creating oxygen. But what can we learn from the rocks about how well Mars could sustain human life?
So we think about a few different elements to know whether an environment was habitable in the past. And one of the most important is that there was a lot of water around. We think this was an ancient lake bed, but the rocks are going to tell us a great story about what the conditions were like in that lake bed. Was it really acidic, or was it really, really salty, and therefore it would not have been a great place to live? those kind of things we can learn. And then really looking for the building blocks of life, those organic molecules, the carbons and hydrogens and nitrogens that make up all living things. And then finally, trying to understand what energy sources, what was the food, what was the stuff that this life, if it had been there, would have lived on. So all those things are elements that we can learn about Mars's habitability by studying the rocks in and around the landing area where Perseverance will be exploring over the coming years.
How proud are you of your colleagues at NASA?
So thrilled for them, so proud. Each one of these missions takes our knowledge that much further. The frontier, we just keep pushing it each and every time. And with every step of a robotic mission on Mars, we're also getting closer to being able to send humans there. And I really hope in my lifetime we'll be celebrating that great achievement as well.
And I would be remiss before we let you go to not mention Robert Goddard, born in Worcester, professor from Worcester Polytechnic Institute, WPI, who in 1926 created the first jet-fueled rocket, right, making space flight possible. So it all really started in Worcester.
That's right. There's always a Worcester connection to everything, right? Robert Goddard dreamed of these days. He dreamed of sending spacecraft to Mars. Even in the late 1800s, when he was a boy here in Worcester, he dreamed of it. At WPI, he was an undergraduate student here. I still have patched roofs on my campus from where he did early experiments that didn't go so well. And then ultimately, he was able to invent the first liquid-fueled rocket and show that such space flight was possible. So it's really, we stand on his shoulders today, and we're so proud of that at WPI.
And of course, the NASA Goddard Space Center named for him.
Yes,
honoring
very
his
appropriately.
work. So that's great. Well, WPI President Laurie Leshin, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us. And as more images come from Mars, who knows what we might see as the weeks go on. We'd love to talk to you again. So thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.